Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Skull.
I'm Zombie Cat.
And this is the Horror Den. Now, today we will be covering our first ever movie in the subgenre of horror that is mine and Zombie Cat's favorite, the slasher movie. And today we are covering Clown by John Watts, and this was released in 2014. Now, if you like what we do here and you like the video itself, just please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. So this is a pretty indie horror film in terms of like what is well known. So we're really excited.
Yeah, it's super low budget. I wish we looked up the budget of this movie before we started this, but
it can't be more than $100,000.
We'll figure it out.
Well, maybe.
We'll put it in an editing, or our audio man will figure out. But
MacLeod, do your job.
Boy, that's the story of my life. No respect. No respect.
But yes, you can tell it's a budget movie, but surprisingly, as we will soon talk about, it's not really that bad.
Now, in terms of slasher movies, this is not your average slasher.
Yeah,
I will say that before we get in. It's very much classic slasher mixed with like possession mixed with monster movie.
Yeah.
So if you're going to watch this after or now before we get into spoiler territory, which we will, so warning.
Yeah, I highly recommend you go give this a watch. It was on it's on Tubi, it's on Freevee through Prime Video, so definitely, or you could probably pick it up for dirt cheap.
I know that on Apple it was like $10 not too long ago.
Yeah, so definitely give it a watch before we spoil it for you.
And if you don't care about that, this is your warning. So without further ado, let's get into our review. So the movie starts with a birthday party with a lot of like kids screaming and a lot of clown imagery.
It's like the most horrifying opening ever. It just starts with a kid.
Yeah, and then it transitions into happy screaming, like a birthday party, like white noise screaming. And we meet one of our protagonists, Meg, who is the wife in this whole ordeal. And she reveals pretty quickly to a friend that she's pregnant, but she hasn't told her husband, Kent. I almost called him Kevin.
Kevin. Like
Kevin from The Office. But hasn't disclosed it to her husband yet. But this is all found out because she denies a drink at the birthday party. Also, there's a lot of comments about how her son is obsessed with clowns, and she was
thankfully they addressed that immediately. They were like, clowns creep me out. When I was a kid, same here. I was traumatized by clowns.
I think that anybody born before us and in our age group, they were traumatized by Tim Curry's performance.
Absolutely.
You know,
that was my introduction to fearing clowns.
So, I wouldn't say that this is like that, but it's kind of like that. Yeah. So,
but she nods at like, why is this kid obsessed with clowns? So it's like, she's like, he's 7. I don't know. It was just one of them things.
Speaking of clowns, it's also apparently they've hired a clown to come and do the birthday party. While the husband Kent, he is a real estate agent and he's trying to sell his house, and he's leaving the house to come to the birthday party when the lady gets a phone call from like the party service place and says that they double booked the clown, and so he's not coming. So she calls Kent and he's like, I'll figure something out. And he's looking at all these clothing.
It's kind of funny. She was like, didn't you get a backup or something? He was like, who double books a clown?
And, he's looking at all these clothing, so like trying to figure out something. It's obvious that he's going to throw something together and be the clown for his kid. And he finds this chest down in the basement and he opens it up and he's like, oh, this is perfect. And it's like this multicolored wig, this really like old...
How would you explain the outfit? It's really cool. It stands out.
It almost said Venetian, but I think that it's not. I think it's very old school, like the fluff collar down.
Yeah.
It looks like it kind of reminds me of like the Pennywise the Dancing Clown costume, except more simplified, almost like more medieval
like
style.
The Bill Skarsgård version.
Yeah, with like the big poofs, but it's not big
like the Bill Skarsgård Pennywise, but almost in a toned down way,
almost like in a medieval jester kind of way, with
there
like
you go.
The flat flat costume like the spike kind
Even
of frill.
has like the
But he finds that it's like made out of this like weird cloth material, and so he puts it on, and apparently like
it almost looks like snake skin.
yeah, and it fit right on, and then he put on the nose that was with it and everything. He goes to the party as Dumbo, the clown,
that's his name,
and
Dumbo.
saves the day. So the party was a big hit. Later that night, he hasn't taken everything off yet.
Yeah, but he's just casually wearing it still, which is kind of weird. But...
Yeah, he forgets that he's wearing it, and
Oh yeah, that's right, because there's a funny little jump scare. He lets this dog outside, and then he closes the door, and he scares himself. He's like, "Oh,
I forgot I was a clown." But he has this awkward moment with his wife where it's almost like intimate, but he's still dressed up like a clown.
He's like, "Let's make a clown baby.
Let's make a clown baby."
Of course, he still doesn't know she's pregnant.
Right, that's still totally not on the wavelength yet. So he goes into the bathroom, like he goes to sleep on the couch. He wakes up the next morning, hustle and bustle of a new day. The kid's got to go to school. He's got to take him. And also he has to go to work. So he quickly tries to take the makeup off, and the makeup's not coming off.
Yeah, he's trying to, at first he's washing his face like in the sink. I think he's even trying to like pull at his hair, and it's not coming off.
He's like pulling at the nose. It's not coming off. And so he realizes that he has no choice, so he gets himself like covered up, takes his kid to school. Some of the other parents see him still having clown makeup on and all this other jazz.
Yeah, he gets some weird looks. It's pretty funny.
And he goes to the work site, which there was this other funny moment where it's like the three guys working there is like, "Why are you dressed like a clown?" And he says, "You got kids?" And then,
which is such a good response.
Yeah.
It's like the things you do for kids.
And they start doing the work thing, and so at this point he is...
Oh god, this is...
Yeah, before we go any further, just a warning, there is a lot of body horror talk in this movie, so just be prepared if you're squeamish.
Movie, honestly, like, going off of that, this movie's best scares come out of body horror, if you ask me, which is awesome to me.
I agree with that. So it cuts to, they're working on the floors, and then he goes into the bathroom to try to get this costume off, and he's pulling at it, it's not coming off.
He's trying to pull his nose, his hair. I think he did buy some makeup remover, and he got the makeup off.
For the most part, you could see it like around the edges of his hairline.
For now, he got the makeup off at least, so you can at least see like his skin. So.
But he opens the drawer and there's a box cutter, and so like this suit is like skin tight around him. So he's like, I'm just gonna cut it off.
You can instantly notice a difference from the night before, where it was kind of like still a little baggy, to like now where it's not completely ingrained into his skin, but he can still like pull it. It's tight.
So he takes the box cutter and he's trying to cut at the costume, and he accidentally slits open his wrist. And it is visceral, and it is brutal looking, and it's just like, if you like have a response to that kind of stuff, like it fucked up Zombie Cat the entire way through the rest of the movie.
I can't stand self-harm imaging. it bugs me so bad. But so he goes from that, and then he bandages his wrist, and then he finds something else. What it was like a little saw.
So he goes back into the thing, and they have this jigsaw, which for those of you who don't know what a jigsaw is, it's like this handheld thing, and you hold it down here, and there's a little blade about that long, and it just goes like this.
It's a small blade. It just moves really
and
quick.
So he's like, I'm gonna cut this thing off me. So he goes back into the bathroom, cuts it on, and begins going to work on it.
It's like after this dude accidentally cut himself, now he's gonna change. He pulls out his like the neck part, and he sticks it inside. And
even before he does it, he said, "This is a bad idea."
And of course he starts winding at it, but it's so strong the blade just snaps in half.
Yeah, which if any of you have ever used one of those, like that happens, but cloth isn't gonna do it.
No, like just a costume.
Yeah.
No.
And so he goes home. He reveals his wife is like, "You've been in that all day," and he says, "I can't get it to come off." And so she's like,
"This is when the jabs at this poor man start."
Yeah.
She's like, "Oh, you've been wearing that all day. You look so cute," and like stuff like that.
But she goes upstairs with her like medical kit, and she opens it up, and there's like these clamps, and she's like, "This is what I do." and then grabs the nose and begins pulling. And eventually, she does get it off, but it takes off a chunk of his whole nose right there.
Yeah, at first, it's like, it's one of those slow processes where it just like, once again, body horror S tier in this movie. Like, she's slowly pulling it and it's just not coming, and you start to see like his nose bleed. And then she eventually he's like grabbing the wall, like death gripping the wall, and she just whoosh, it just falls out, and then it just leaves a chunk out of his nose.
And after that happens, she's like, did you dye and perm your hair? And he's like, no, this is a wig. And it's like, no, it's not, that's your hair. The wig that he had put on had become his actual hair. And so he goes to the hospital, and they're just like, yeah, you'll be fine, just, you know, don't watch the adhesive on your nose, you know, all this other stuff. And he's like, I'm not stupid, I didn't put adhesive on. And he's like, this was a wig. And he's starting to sound crazy.
Of course, everyone's starting to like not believe him. Like, what are you doing, dude? But
okay. So he goes to this costume store and he talks to this girl about where he could trace like where this costume came from, and he finds the I believe it's KC on the chest. And so he finds the KC, you know, costume making company, and he calls them up. And he gets the phone number from this ad from this costume department. He calls up KC Costuming, and he gets a guy named Carlson, which we don't know his name yet, but we learn it in a little bit. He says, he asks about the costume in the chest downstairs. He didn't know that the person who had previously owned the house had died. And so he says, don't touch the costume.
This is something we forgot to mention. When he goes back to the trunk and sees that KC logo, he tries pulling on it and he realizes that it's chained to the wall. Like, it is literally like bolted to the wall.
But anyway, he calls up this guy and he's like, don't touch the costume.
He's like, I will be there to get it ASAP. Like, I'm on my way. Leave it alone.
But then he's like, I'm wearing it. And he said, oh, that's fine, you know. Your moisture gets trapped in and it gets really skin tight. It was
like the old fibers or something with the moisture. It made it get sticky or something.
He says, hey, can you meet me at my warehouse tonight? And he's like, sure, I'll be there. So he goes to meet this guy at the warehouse that he talked to on the phone. He comes in, and it's Peter Stormare, which, if you don't know who that is, he was in Until Dawn, and he was also one of the replacers from the old Black Ops 2 trailers, which is what we know him as first.
Now you gonna pick up my
Hey.
I know I've seen him in other stuff, too.
Yeah, that's just the first two that come to mind.
He's got a very recognizable face.
Oh, yeah.
And voice, yeah.
But anyway, so turns out that this costume hails from like the Nordic region, specifically like Iceland. He talks about the origin of the modern day clown and how it originally began.
This is really cool. I almost wish this was true. It's pretty awesome.
But apparently the origin of what is now known as the modern day clown originates from the Nordic regions as a monster or a kind of,
I think it was
demon known as the
Cloyne.
The Cloyne, who would eat children during the winter months.
Yeah, he lived in a cave in like these icy mountains, and he would lure children from villages into his cave, and he would need 5 children for each month of winter.
Yeah, it was like 1 for each month specifically.
And he's showing pictures of this thing, and it looks gnarly. Like, it is awesome.
About this time, Kent realizes that something's not right, and he's been drugged. And he passes out, and he wakes up early to Carlson. He's like, I have to cut off your head. And he's like, I'm trying to help you. And he manages to break free and wrestle.
Like, the medication was supposed to keep you asleep for a lot longer, which makes me think, I wonder if like the demon was kind of like resisting, like it knew it was in harm almost.
Maybe. But it turns out, like after the scuffle, Carlson reveals that the costume and the hair and the nose is all the skin, hair, and nose from the Cloyne demon. And the demon is taking over Kent's body. So by putting on the costume, it's basically like inviting this thing in to possess him. So Kent takes this guy, throws him in the back seat, and he's like going home.
But first, before he finds this out when he wakes up. Carlson is holding an axe. He's getting ready to chop Kent's head off, and he was telling him the only way you can stop it is by decapitating it or taking its head off. And somewhere in the scuffle, a butcher knife gets grabbed, and he throws it
right into his shoulder, dude.
Yeah.
And he throws him in the back after the scuffle, takes him back to his home where his wife, I believe her brother and her sister-in-law, and then her dad are there, and they're like, just take the damn costume off, and they're like pulling his hair and all this. They're just total dickheads to him. Like, I know that if we were in this situation, I don't know if we would respond any better. But at the same time, it's just like, knowing everything, it's just like, God, you're not listening. In stereotypical slasher fashion, no one is listening. And so the wife, Meg, is like, who did this to you? And takes him outside, and there's Carlson, like, gagged in the back seat. And it's like, he's crazy. And it's like, meet me at the police station. What happens? There's a scuffle. Oh, he breaks the fucking guy's arm.
It's one of the brothers. He's like trying to get him to stop because he's acting crazy, and he grabs his arm, and I guess it's just
like a twitch of the wrist.
Yeah, it's like, I guess the power from the suit's kind of kicking in, and you just...
Yeah, you see the bone like come straight out. And he's like, meet me at the police station. He gets in the car and he drives away. And he starts coughing, and it's like this multicolored goo.
It looks like Gushers.
Yeah.
Every time I watch this movie, I'm like, it looks like Gushers. Like, he just went...
But, it hits the windshield, and he's trying to wipe it off, and then he loses control, and he wrecks. And we've heard his stomach began to gurgle every once in a while. Like,
oh, yeah, we didn't mention that. One night, he wakes up just, like, scarfing down cake.
Yeah.
Like, he's
like a bottomless pit all of a sudden. And he gets out of the car, and Carlson is like, you should just off yourself. Can we say that?
Yeah, off is fine.
Okay, you should just off yourself. Because that's the only way that this is going to end well. And he's like, do it. And so he leaves him at the car.
He just keeps repeating that. He's like, he's starting to get away from the car, and Carlson's just like,
do it. And he walks away, and this guy like has stopped, and he's like, are you okay, buddy? And just pushes him away as he becomes like almost entranced. And the camera pans over to what he's looking at, and there's just two kids in the back seat of the car, like with their faces pressed up, and he's like staring at the kids.
Stomach starts growling immediately.
And so he runs off into the woods. So the wife goes to the detectives over at the police station. They kind of have a conversation. They're just like, if you see your husband, call. And then it cuts back to Kent in the woods, where he has found himself on the outskirts of like a summer camp.
This is a pretty fun scene.
And a kid that we are only known by the name of Lardass gets called out for leaving food around the fire, and he has to go get it. And while he's traveling, he goes through the woods, and he finds Kent looking like the most scary looking like hobo clown known to man, and he's just like, do you have some food? I just want some food. And he's like, I have this, and he pulls out like a cake, like a sweet cake, or like a candy.
Like
and he starts to approach him, and
of course he's like slowly approaching him.
Yeah. And Kent just grabs his hand and takes a chunk off his finger.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
And he runs away.
I feel like that's almost like a callback to It, when Georgie's trying to get the boat.
Yeah,
we got popcorn and candy. So the transformation continues as Kent goes to one of his properties that he's trying to sell, which is like a like living in a motel situation.
Yeah.
And it's not fully put together. It's probably something in the works. And there's this kid there, and he comes up, and he's just like, "Are you a clown,
Mr. Clown?"
And he's just like, "Get away from me!" And he goes inside.
The kid's telling him, "I got waffles, I got chocolate, I got cereal, I got
if you
cookies."
Want food. So he goes in, and he's trying to figure out what to do, and so he does probably like the smartest thing he could do first.
Oh, this is pretty cool though. Before that scene, like he's looking in the mirror and you can like see his eyes. They're just like bloodshot and like you just had. It's almost like cat's eyes, but they're like huge and blue. It's awesome.
But he goes into the bathroom and he offs himself.
With rainbow blood.
Yeah, with gushers behind him.
Literally, it looks like
it's just boom all across there, and he survives. And you can tell at that point he's just like, I don't know what to do.
just like Carlson said, you have to decapitate it.
So he goes to like a Home Depot or a Lowe's or something, or a hardware store, and he gets a couple hand saws.
And the store clerk, just to add another jab to this poor man, he's like, oh, you building a playhouse or something like that?
It's like you're building a fun house.
You building a fun house? Because he looks still.
And he has these aviators on and the clown makeup, and he's just like,
oh man, this guy gets it the whole movie. Just it's bad luck after bad luck.
So he goes back to the hotel room, is what I'm gonna call it, and he sets up this like chair situation where there's two hand saws like creating a V, and he's sitting in a chair and he's gonna just let himself fall to where it does the work for him. And you know, he chickens out and he can't do it. He just can't force himself to do the push. And we see his wife going to all these different properties trying to find him. And we see this scene where we presume that it's his wife like having a ring of keys, like trying to unlock the door that he's behind. And then right when they find the right key, it's the kid from earlier,
Mr. Clown.
and he comes in and he's like, he falls to the side, and like one of the saws like falls, and I guess they connect with something, and one of the saw blades comes off and just goes right through the kid. Him. Which, okay, hard pause. This is the one problem I have with this movie, and I knew that I was gonna have to bring it up, and Zombie Cat and I warned them. This movie, I liked it. This was the dumbest thing in this movie. How did the kid get the keys? Did he go to the fucking front desk and be like, there's a clown in room 304?
I thought that was the mom. Like, it was showing the mom, like, doing keys, but the kid just opened the door.
Well, the door was locked.
I mean,
Okay, let's say that the keys were how he got in. Where did he get them from? That's my biggest fucking
Well,
problem.
also, like, why is there a little kid outside at night with no parents around? Like, where's your family?
it's a slasher.
I mean, yeah, but it was so, like, I don't know. I think I would have rather it been the wife.
Poor little
I don't know.
7-year-old.
But I mean, obviously it's explained why it was important. But at the same time, it's just like, I just imagine this kid going to the fucking front desk and stealing the fucking keys just to go talk to this clown. And I'm like,
Why do these kids like clowns so much?
why? I just remember being a kid like, I would never do that. I would never do something like that.
I'd be scared to sleep in my hotel knowing there's a clown over there.
Yeah, it's not even just some normal clown. This clown looks terrifying. This clown is like a Halloween clown. It's not like...
Not even a Halloween clown, more like a demonic clown.
Yeah.
I can overlook it though. It's an indie slasher. It's,
But
you know.
I had to say something because it's the only gripe I have.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
like, I have to make a big deal of it because it's just, when I was seeing it, I was like, why is this happening? Why are you running? Why are you unlocking the door?
Little kid just wanted to see the clown. He wanted to give him some cereal and be nice.
Well, this, you know, curiosity killed the cat. And
literally did.
guess what? I know that there's more to that adage, but he didn't come back, so.
But this also adds a positive to this movie, unlike most slashers where they stray away from. Not saying it's a good thing, but I'm saying.
Yeah, disclaimer, we do not
yeah,
approve.
don't mistake this, but how most slashers stray away from unalived kids, this movie's victims is only kids.
Yeah, and you know,
And they do not hide it.
I guess if you've always wanted to see children pass in media, or you've always been that kind of person that wishes you could get kids in Skyrim, this is the movie for you. But
So yeah, saw blade right through him, and then he eats him.
yeah, he's like, oh no, and then, nom 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 nom.
His stomach starts growling, and it's
Yeah.
like it just takes over.
And when we say he eats this kid, literally right as this happens, the wife pulls up at this thing, and she comes over and begins to try to unlock the door, and he says no from the other side, and she convinces him to go home with her. When he opens the door, she's shocked because he's transformed so much. She finally believes him, I think.
Yeah, this is definitely the point of...
She takes him to the car, and then the camera pans as they leave over to the floor where we see empty children bones.
Yeah.
He ate him very quickly. So they go back to their home. They lock him in the basement using chains. And he's like, don't let me out no matter what I say. So Meg goes back upstairs and she finds the journal that Carlson gave them with all like the information about the clown, and finds a photo in there where Carlson is wearing the clown suit, which means that he's somehow escaped all of this. So she decides to go out and meet with Carlson, who's in the hospital and has his jaw wired shut, and writes out this like messages to her like don't trust your husband and all this other
like
jazz.
He's emphasizing like just tapping that over and over and over.
She gets frustrated and decides to leave. Meanwhile, at the same time that this is going on, her kid, their kid, is at school getting bullied. We've seen him kind of being picked on periodically.
Yeah.
And so he gets cornered by these two bullies who are going to put like toothpaste or like some kind of paste on his face.
Like glue or something.
And he's like, we're going to make you look like your insert slur about homosexual people here, Dad. And he bites his hand and runs out and runs all the way home. When he gets there, he finds out that his dad's in the basement, and his dad is like luring him down there, and is like, you see the bolt cutters, like let me free, and then
he tells him a cool story, not a cool story. But
about how he hid.
Yeah, how he has this really like grisly, like demonic voice now, and he's telling his kid like, you know what I did when I got bullied? I hid. And he's like, you want to know how I resolved or what happened? And we don't get to hear what happened. He just says, you know where the bolt cutters are? Kind of implying like, oh, that's how I dealt with the kid.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's the demon talking, of course.
But it cuts before we know what happens to the mom coming home. The door is open to the basement. There is no Kent. Nobody's answering. And then finally, Jack walks around the corner. He's fine.
Which is the name of their kid.
Yeah. But Kent's not home. So, about this time, they're like, we gotta go looking for your dad. And then we hear a growl. So earlier in the movie, the dog, Shadow, when the nose got ripped off, Shadow actually ate the nose.
It's gross.
It's very gross. But we hear a growl, and around the corner comes Shadow, possessed by this clown demon. It's not too serious, but we see like the faces kind of morphed, and there's kind of what appears to be a nose on the end.
Every time you see him, it's just like a pinch more.
No, I'm talking about the dog.
Oh, the dog. Okay.
And so he's about to pounce on Meg when Carlson comes out of nowhere and decapitates the dog, killing it. And
it's pretty cool. It's like a rainbow fizz like coming out of his neck.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun effect.
And she's upset, as she would be, like, oh, you my dog, you motherfucker.
Even though he was about to kill you, probably.
Yeah.
Clown dog,
or cloyne dog, whichever you prefer. But so they decide that they need to find Kent. So in order to do that, they take Jack to stay with his grandparents, and they go on the hunt for Kent, which Kent has went to Colton's house, which is the bully. And
that's the bully that Jack specifically said, like, Colton was the one
that did it.
This is the like he said, you want to know what I did to my bullies, kind of like that.
But we get this really cool shot. He's coming home from school and he's like playing, I think it's Halo.
Yeah,
some kind of Halo ripoff.
Yeah, it's pretending to be Halo because they make a joke like, "Who's in your house, Master Chief?"
Yeah, and we see Kent come in the back door and just
first
stand.
He spills like some code red
on the white carpet that looks expensive.
So he gets up to.
Well, first we see Kent standing behind him.
Yeah.
as he comes in the house, and there's just this shot where he's just standing there looking at him,
It
and then
looks so good.
and he walks away, and he spills some code red, goes up to clean it, and he realizes that the back door's open. He's like, I think there's somebody in my house, and he puts down the headset. Why would you ever put down the headset? The amount of times that I've been in a party
And
with
what's
these
funny
two.
is on the picture of his wall, like, this kid must be like my kid's such a cool badass, like he's like the Karate Kid. He's got like all these like serious pictures of him on the wall.
Also, his parents look like they got some money.
Yeah.
He looks like he's very entitled.
This is about to-
Yeah.
And the kid hears a sound and he goes and grabs his nunchucks.
I think there's somebody in my house, walks over to a pool table where there's metal nunchucks and grabs them, and he's like, wah! And he rounds the corner and he sees Kent. And he's like,
It is haunting. It is such a good shot of him just
Standing there.
It is so good.
and he's like, I can't remember his last name, but he's like, Mr. So-and-so. And he's like, then over the mic, we've been hearing all those friends trash talking this whole time. And then they recount the whole incident of him bullying Kent's son. And
like he's hearing everything that they did to his son. Like they're saying, "Oh, we were gonna put glue on his face and stuff like that."
And then Kent proceeds to brutally murder Colton.
And it's funny, on the screen, his friend is kicking him in the game at the same time.
Yeah, and like teabagging him as we see like a piece of organ like hit the TV and fall.
Super cool effect again.
Which we actually see his body in not too short of a fashion. It's kind of like we see the initiation, and then it cuts to the side where we see the TV, and then it's just blood splatter and like organs. Which, I don't think that that's a total like cop out. But
Oh, well, we see the body.
yeah, we see the body later. But he disappears into the evening or the afternoon, and later Meg and Carlson arrive at Colton's house after Jack told them where he would be going, and they find a mutilated Colton.
Like literally torn halfway through, like just
No
smeared.
upper half.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just the lower half of his
It's just the lower half. That's it.
It's gruesome.
And also, if we thought that white expensive carpet was stained by the code red, it's definitely not being
I
saved
wonder
now.
where Colton's parents were.
Well, it was. I think Carlson said it was like 7:30 on a Thursday.
Well, they got there at nighttime.
I know, but he said it's 7:30 on a Thursday.
I don't know.
Who knows? But they are like, where would a clown go on a 7:30 at night on a Thursday to where he wouldn't be noticed? And then she looks at him like she just realized something. And first thing I said was, is there a carnival in town that we don't know about? And then the scene cuts and they're in a parking lot outside of like a kid's like party restaurant.
It's Chuck E. Cheese.
It is Chuck E. Cheese, but it's never like fully brandished.
You see E and like cheese.
Yeah.
But
And-
at the beginning of the movie, the reason it's like a callback in a way at the beginning, she's like, oh, at least this party is better than Chuck E. Cheese. So, no, she's at Chuck E.
Yeah,
Cheese.
I had to go there anyway. But this is probably my favorite part.
Yeah, this whole scene is awesome.
So they arrive at Chuck E. Cheese. She goes in to kind of scope the place out, and then the whole perspective changes to that of a kid looking for his brother. And he goes inside the McDonald's play place looking shit, you know what I'm saying? And he goes up through the tunnels looking for his brother, and then finally he gets up high, and there's like nobody in this section for some reason.
Yeah,
and
he encounters a girl who's about to go down a slide, and she just says, don't go up there.
Yeah, don't go up there. That's it.
And she just goes down.
And so he's like, oh well, and he goes up there. And literally as soon as it goes into the next entrance, like through that tunnel, what he doesn't see, but we do see is like bloody handprints and then a giant like blood splatter across the top corner. And he rounds the corner and he sees like the shadow and he sees his brother come into frame and he's like, oh, there you are. And then he gets pulled away. And he rounds the corner and there's Kent like pinning this kid in this tunnel system. And he's like, let go of him. And then Kent goes after the brother.
Yeah, so the little brother, he gets away. He goes
runs.
down the slide or whatever. But he starts chasing after the kid who was looking, which is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, we just see blood like splatter all across these tunnels, and I'm just like, the whole time I'm reminded of the local play place that was there forever. And I was like, I can just see like traveling in those tunnels as a kid, and like if something like this happened, like that thing could be like a maze sometimes.
Yeah.
And if you got disoriented, like, oh my god, it would be terrifying. But
with a killer clown.
oh yeah, nonetheless. But essentially everything breaks out in all-out mayhem as he goes down the slide, and the blood of his brother follows him down into the ball pit.
Yeah.
And
I don't know what Kent might have done. There's a kid who jumps in the ball pit and he jumps right out. It's like, oh, there's like pee in here.
And there's blood on his sock.
Yeah, so it might have been blood.
Yeah, there was, I think that he had already killed someone.
Yeah.
And
Because remember,
he says that later on that there's two confirmed deaths.
So another kid
got killed,
passed away that we just didn't see.
Yeah, got killed off screen. But we see this one, and then, you know, all out hell is breaking loose in this Chuck E. Cheese, and, you know, everybody's running out, and she's like, apparently there's a crazy, she talks to a mom, she's like, apparently there's a crazy clown up there, save your kids. We felt bad for somebody because there was somebody stuck in like the cage area, and you just see them banging, and then they're gone. So I guess they made it out, but it was funny because I was like, that would be me. That's my
I'm stuck in the net.
Help me! Somebody get the bolt cutters. So this is the best Chuck E. Cheese ever because attached to it is a black light 18-hole mini golf, and they go in there, and Carlson like leads the way. And they find Kent, who is transformed even more since we last saw him. And Carlson comes out of nowhere trying to decapitate him.
Well, first, the wife finds him. He's like just kind of cornered up, and she's like, we're going to fix this. Like, Carlson's okay. You know, like, you're fine.
And then,
he immediately comes back with that axe trying to get Kent again.
A fight ensues. Kent overpowers him, and then it's, you know, like, we're gonna fix this, like, let me help you. And then like the voice of Kent comes through, and he said, feed me a child.
It's not the voice of Kent.
Well,
it's the voice
it's kind of like a mixture almost. And he's like, we earlier heard from Carlson that how he escaped this curse was his brother locked him up and fed the demon 5 children, and then he was let go.
He was able to sneak these kids out of a cancer hospital like they were on their deathbed, like almost dead, and he would feed them to his brother. And you actually get to see that, like you see the creature like chained up in the chair.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
It's really cool. There's a lot of nuance to this film. This all happens very quickly, so if we're missing stuff, we apologize, but like half of what we've said happens in the first 30 minutes.
Yeah.
This movie's only an hour and a half long, but it's just so much happens just right on top of each other that there's no way that we could cover it all and still not be like a 2-hour long video. But he's like, tries to make the same deal with Meg, where it's like, feed me one more child. We know that he's killed 4 kids at this point. And he's like, feed me one more child and I'll let you have your husband again. And he says, bring the child to our favorite spot, babe. Which we don't really know what that means. But she leaves, and Carlson gets all the blame pinned on him, I'm sure, in some capacity.
He's literally on the floor. He got beat up by Kent. He's got blood coming out his mouth.
He's got an axe.
He's holding the axe. So, and the cops come in. They're like, drop the weapon!
Which is the last time we see Carlson in this movie. Well, he did his job replacing us for forever, so it's time for him to have a rest. But anyway, so she goes out in the parking lot, and she's like, I guess, in shock about what is going on, and she sees this lone kid, and she's like, there's just this look of like, that's the one. So she starts approaching, and a mom comes up out of nowhere, and is like, oh yeah, my kids are safe, like everything's fine. And so
thank you, you saved my kid.
Yeah, totally. And then goes to the car, and I guess is like trying to figure out what to do, and then all of a sudden this probably like what 12-year-old girl.
Yeah,
Like comes and knocks on the window, recognizes her, and is like, I can't find my parents. Will you drive me home?
She recognizes her as her dentist, as referred to earlier.
Like a dental assistant or something. Because she's scared of the dentist, but she was always nice to her. And so
and this part's a little cheesy. They like try to make the girl super nice to where it's a little corny. She's like, oh my gosh, thank you, you're so nice.
You're so nice. Like trying to really drive it home that like what she's doing is a bad thing. Yeah. So she is like, I know where you live. I know the street. So we'll figure your house out from there. And then the girl gets tired and takes a little power nap. But she drives her to a secluded location where we think that the clown is going to be. And then it says, you're home, and kicks her out and locks the door. And we hear like movement and noises and stuff, and the girl's freaking out. Let me back in. This isn't my home. What are you doing? You are so nice. And so she like opens the door. She's like, it's not safe. Get in. She has a change of heart. And
you could hear Kent coming. You just heard the.
Yeah, if that is Kent, we don't know.
I'm pretty sure it would be.
But then I disagree, and I'll tell why in just a second. So then we hear like car doors open, and it's the detective that was at the Chuck E. Cheese that watched them leave. And he's like, you stay here, and like goes after the girl. And
which is not how that would go in real life.
Oh no. And so she closes the door and books it when she realizes that the demon had said, maybe if you don't give me what I want, I'll go after Jack.
Yeah.
And so she goes, turns out Grandpa didn't listen and has decided to bring Jack home to
the worst character in the movie. God, he's annoying.
And he decides to bring Jack home to confront Kent. You know, because he's got to be Mr. Macho Man. But
and he hates Kent. I don't know if we've emphasized that or even said
it's never explained why.
He just does not like his wife's husband, so...
Yeah, it's like the...
Did I just say his wife's husband? His daughter's husband. His wife's husband.
You understand. Anyway.
Why wouldn't he not like his wife's husband?
Last boyfriend.
But she doesn't like her. She doesn't like her. He doesn't like his daughter's husband, so he's going to send Kent a message with his fist. And when he pulls up, there are child bones and blood on the ground. And when her name's Meg, right?
Yeah, Meg comes home.
Meg comes home, and she sees her dad, and the first thing he says is, I know what Kent's probably got you into. Don't worry, I will help you cover up anything.
Yeah, I'll get rid of the blood. I don't want you implicated in any of this. and he's like, I'll do anything for you. You're my little girl. And then Kent comes out of nowhere and just
he
breaks the
his
neck.
Jaw.
Yeah, and breaks the neck at the same time. It's just black.
He completely removes his jaw. It's so awesome.
At that moment, this is when everyone in the room, me, D-Mac, and Zombie Cat, were just like, thank the Lord.
He's that one character. There's always that one.
When you just can't wait for him to die.
Yep.
So, you know, Grandpa Dearest is dead. And also, Kent looks like the monster we saw in the video earlier.
He's fully transformed now. It's awesome. The effects on it look amazing. I don't know how much of this is practical. Mm-hmm. We didn't mention that as well. A lot of the scenes where like his fingers and toes are like expanding and stretching out. I don't know what of this movie is practical, not practical.
Almost all of it up to that point, because I didn't catch this part, but almost all of it up to this point, like at least 90% of it was practical.
It had to be.
I love the effects in this movie. I think they absolutely
even like the final clown form, he looks awesome. Like I'd say scarier than Pennywise if you ask the right person. Like it's pretty scary.
So after, you know, Grandpa Dearest dies, a chase ensues where the now demonic clown chases Meg across the house and then corners her in the garage, and he realizes that there's a fetus inside of her, and so he lifts up her shirt and is like going to dig in there to get the child out, and then she yells out, "Jack, run!" And I guess he doesn't know that Jack's in the house, and so Jack runs downstairs. The clown's focuses all of his attention there, chases after him, and there's this cool thing where he hides in the basement, and the clown like kind of knows where he is, but then like seals him off, and then goes up and starts breaking above him to get him. Before Mommy Dearest comes around the corner with a chain and puts it around his neck and yanks.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We didn't mention that she cut his throat
a little earlier.
Yeah, and
like right here.
And while he's chasing Jack, he's hiding in this corner, so he like seals where he's hiding off at, like he's in a cubby, and Kent like closes him inside so he can go to the stairs and like
go from the top.
Yeah.
And pick him up. But he gets a chain around the throat and is like dragged into the basement, and then like hooked up to the wall so where he can't quite get out of the way. And then once like I guess the clown knows that he's in trouble, then he lets Kent come through, where he pretends to be Kent.
Yeah.
And he's like, help me. And then she's like, she falls for it. She goes like, go upstairs and get the book. Maybe we can figure out something to help your dad. And then he says, that's not my dad.
Yeah.
And so she has a sledgehammer. And once he says that, the clown realizes that he's in trouble and goes for the attack again. And Mama Bear over here takes the sledgehammer and just
whang.
Boom! Head comes off. And they sit in victory before the body comes back to life, because there's a strand of like spinal cord.
Yeah, it's literally just like strung to his head.
And it's just like right there. And so she finally like rips it free. The fizz starts coming out of the eyeballs and the ears. And
It's
then
like
the paint.
dissolving. It's
the
awesome.
paint comes off like a mask.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the suit like kind of like loosens. And we see Kent's original face underneath.
And it's really sad, because it's just like, man,
he didn't deserve that.
all of this happened just because he wanted to make his kid have a good birthday.
Yeah.
All because the clown canceled.
What?
The clown canceled.
Oh yeah, all because the damn party clown didn't show up. But so we hear sirens, and our protagonists are still alive except for Kent. And then it cuts to black before we see the evidence being bagged up, and we see the hair, the suit.
Well, at first it's just the hair and like the nose, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
But then it of course pans one more time into like a plastic evidence crate. The suit is still there and probably going to find another victim at some point.
But that is the end of Clown. Yeah, definitely worth a watch. I know that there's a lot we probably missed because, like I said, it moves very quickly. I could not keep up with my notes. We had to pause multiple times so I could keep track of the series of events, and even then, we're still a little jumbled because it happens so quickly, which it doesn't feel rushed. It gets to the point.
Yeah, and that's great. There's no filler. Like, you're literally going from A to Z. We're going through it.
And it's one of those movies that if you don't pay attention, you're gonna miss out on so much. So if you have an hour and a half that you can actually pay attention and dedicate to it, definitely worth the watch.
Yeah, this movie is super underrated. I have never heard of anybody mentioning this movie before. I'm the only person that I know that knows about it. So.
I mean, like I said, I had seen it on streaming services, but it's never been one of those movies where it's like, oh, I want to watch that. That looks like I'd like it. I mean, it looked creepy, but I remember back when we were in high school and you would come over and you would just like, you would look at it on Netflix and it said, I bet that's good. Now, I'm going to watch that eventually. And it's like, I mean, we can, you know, but we just never did.
I remember the trailer just being like, oh, it's like a skin suit. That's terrifying. But, yeah, I'd argue this is scarier than... For sure. I mean, like, at least It Chapter 2. Scariness, yeah. I would probably put this above It Chapter 2.
All right, so without further ado, everyone, let's get into our scoring. So, like always, we start off our scoring with story. Zombie Cat, I'm gonna let you give your scores first.
The story is freaking awesome. Like, I don't think I've ever heard of something like this where it's like a demon possessing you through a clown suit. Like, that's so gnarly. Like, seeing this transformation of this guy just trying to be a good dad and literally going through hell for it. Like, I see no reason not to give it like an 8. is like so good because you're just curious, like, how is he gonna get this suit off? Especially at the beginning when you're just like, what's going on? Like,
Yeah,
what?
it happens so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So quick.
It's like, what in the world? Like, what is this thing? It's just sick. Yeah, definitely an 8.
Well, it's been a while, but I agree. I also gave it an 8 for story. Just because, like, we've seen a lot of slasher movies. We've seen a lot of horror movies. But I can honestly say, hands down, that I've never seen a slasher pulled off this way, where it's almost a combination of possession meets monster flick meets, slasher movies. It's not a traditional slasher by any means, but it's close enough. We had other ideas of stuff to cover, but we wanted to save some of them.
In case we mentioned it, by the way, we may have in our previous video said that we're covering Hellfest, but we decided to save that for spooky season, just in case we mentioned that.
Yeah, just in case. If not, then don't pay attention to us.
We
You don't know
will.
anything.
We will get to it still.
But I have to agree. I think it's original. It's original. Like, I can't downplay it because I've never seen like anything like this before, and I'm sure that somebody in the comments could like let us know if we're wrong. Maybe this kind of stuff has happened before, but like I can't recall.
I can think of like Venom. That's the only.
But
like,
yeah,
the
but that's not a
symbiote.
slasher.
Yeah, I was just giving an example. That's the only thing I can think of where it's
So
Reminds me of The Mask. Like,
yeah,
or The Mask
yeah, The
from
Mask
like
is a good one.
Goosebumps.
It's just that on crack.
Mm-hmm.
So you gave it an 8. I gave it an 8. It gives us an average of 8, which I think it's been a while since we've got a score equal.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Moving on to characters. Now I got some opinions on this one, but I'll let you go first.
For characters, nobody really stands out besides like Carlson. Kent's a good character just out of he's like the antagonist, so it's like
He's the protagonist and the antagonist.
yeah, it's like you're rooting for him to get through this, but at the same time he's the one doing the killing. So just for characters though, they're kind of bad to be honest. Like everyone outside of like Kent, the mom, Jack suck. So 4 below average. I mean, they're fine. They're there to do their job. Nothing exceptional, which once again, this is an indie film, so that maybe kind of hurts some of the dialogue and stuff like that a bit, but yeah, I'd say a 4.
You know, I had a different scoring, but I think you swayed me. I think my reasons for giving it what I did was the same as your reasoning for giving it what you did. So I'm gonna agree with you. I'm also gonna go with a 4.
What was your original?
My original was 6, but now like listening to you talk and like us going over the analysis, I do feel that that's a bit too I gave it a 6 because I was like, they weren't good. Like,
Yeah.
but I feel like even giving them a 6 is giving it a little too much credit in terms of like character
I'd maybe
depth.
like teeter on a 5.
Now, before you like look at this score and think that it's a bad movie, I don't think that this movie calls for character depth. Just like
It really don't. You're
Yeah.
focused. Like if it was, once again, I'll give the points through antagonist to
Yeah.
Kent. That's what I'm saying. He is the star of the show as well as
I think that this movie, while other movies that we've covered recently, characters play a big part. This is one where in stereotypical slasher fashion, what matters is the content of the story and the antagonist along with the kills and the premise. So I think that if those scores are good, then it's a good movie. Characters normally suck in these kind of movies. And like, I totally agree with Zombie Cat. Other than, Kent, Meg, Jack, and Carlson, like all the other characters,
That's really it.
all the other characters really are just there for cannon fodder.
And to be annoying.
Yes.
They're like the annoying ones in a slasher movie.
Yeah.
It's what
So,
you expect.
I agree with you. I'm gonna go with 4 too. I'm changing it to a 4. So the average is 4 for characters. I think that's more fitting. Moving on. Now this is where the movie needs to shine. We're moving on to antagonist. So let's talk about it.
So this is where all my points to Kent are gonna go because this dude nails this role. Like I've never seen this actor in anything else. I don't think, at least.
Oh yeah, he does a good.
But just this demon, the cloyne. Like I said, if this was the actual origin of the clown, that would be so sick. I know it's not, but like, it's so cool. But yeah, this demon, the cloyne, it's honestly, I can't think of a reason not to give it a 9. Like, it's so awesome. Like, it's so unique. It's so cool. He needs 5 children to like feed for like once every month of winter. And it's like, just the look of the creature is so unique for a clown. Like, it's cool seeing that, and that's how the clown got inspired in this universe. It's like, that's so badass. I love how they even said like his nose was red due to like the like wind burn of the snow and stuff like that. It's so cool. So yeah, just like Kent as this freaking demonic clown was terrifying. I loved it.
Now, for me personally, when it comes to the antagonist, I do like the premise. However, I think that something that kind of breaks the immersion factor for me is the suspension of disbelief that we're in a reality where the cloyne was like an existing thing.
Yeah.
Like a cryptid. I think that kind of falls hard on me, because if this, like in Butterfly Kisses with Peeping Tom, that is something that I could totally buy being a real urban legend.
Yeah.
I don't think I could buy this being a real urban legend.
Oh, well, it's not really trying.
Well, I know it's not trying to, but it's just like, I'm having to compare it to something like that in terms of antagonist. And, you know, I gave the Smile Monster a 10, but that's just because of how, like, out there it was for me.
Just so cool.
Now, this one is also out there, but I feel like I have to point those things out to justify my scoring. I gave it a 7, and I'm going to stick by that. It's above average. I think that it isn't a unique approach, but I think that all of the points that I'm giving to the categories went into story because of its originality. I feel like the story behind the cloyne goes into the story as well.
Yeah.
So that's where that shines for me. The story is where this movie
like you
shines
say,
for
as
me.
untruthful as it is, it's really cool how he describes the cloyne and how that led to the origin of the clown. It's so cool. I love it.
So yeah, for antagonist, I gave it a 7. So you gave it a 9. I gave it a 7, which gives it an average of 8, which is still good. You know, for an indie horror movie, that's still a good score for an antagonist. Now moving on to humor. See, with this one, I had to ask you at the beginning, what funny moments were there in this movie? And as we talked, there were some that came up.
it came back to me as we were filming this. So, I'd say a 4. A 4 is fair. Like, I chuckled a good bit throughout the movie. There's some goofy stuff that happens. All the jabs at poor Kent.
Oh, poor Kent. I agree with you. I'm also going to give it a 4 for you.
Yeah, not really much to cover on that topic, but
I'm glad it's not more funny.
Yeah, like it's a good spread of, like, you know, like
Yeah.
you get chuckles, but it doesn't take away from the fear, really.
I'd say it's edging on 5 because it's like run of the mill. This is exactly like the sweet spot almost for comedy in horror movies.
Especially a slasher.
Yeah. Especially one that's being geared towards being more serious. So if you're trying to go for serious but it's funny, then it's like having a high humor score would detract.
Yeah.
So we both gave it a 4. Gives us an average of 4. We are agreeing pretty steadily with this movie. Now, getting into my favorite category, scariness. How do you feel?
Okay, like, I'm pretending I just saw this for the first time. If I would have saw this as a kid, it'd probably get like a 15.
Yeah.
Because clowns terrified me. But right now, I'd say scariness is probably like a 7. Like, there's some good jump scares in the movie. There's a lot of fake outs, which y'all know I'm not a fan of. But like the actual cloyne, like demon jump scares, they're all really good. And just the clown itself is horrifying. Like the body horror, oh my god, that is so good. Like every second of the body horror in this movie is dreadful to watch in a good way.
All right, guys. You know this is where I'm a little bit of a stickler. So usually I score movies pretty low. I'm giving this movie a 5 in terms of scariness, only because of the body horror element. There was nothing besides that I could say like was actually scary to me. But I originally was gonna, if there was no body horror, it'd probably be like a 2.
You didn't think the clown was scary
I
at
thought
all?
I thought that the clown design was cool, but I didn't find it scary.
If I saw that thing coming at me, bro, I'd die.
I mean, it is a creepy design, but like its execution did not scare me. So, but what did get a response out of me was the body horror.
Yeah.
So that's what I kind of have to vote on, which I think is run of the mill. I think it's an average 5, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
No. Like I said, you know, this movie shines for me in other areas, like in story and in antagonist. But I'm always a stickler for scariness, and I know that I just came off of a pretty big score in terms of scariness. But just like that scariness compared to this one, that's where I'm sitting. You know, like if this was 3:00 tonight, I don't think I would have any negative consequences from watching this movie. So I gave it a 5. You gave it a...
I said 7, right?
Yeah, so I gave it a 5, you gave it a 7, which averages out to 6 for scary. Last but not least, we're going into experience, how we felt about the movie overall.
For a indie movie on clowns, which there are probably hundreds, if not thousands, of clown movies out there, this movie gets an 8 from me. This movie freaking rocks. I love this movie. It's so cool. The clown is cool. The idea is cool. Like, just everything is so awesome. I love this movie as a slasher. The body horror, the kills. Like, I don't know what more I could ask for. Like I said, if you asked me on the right day, I'd say this is maybe better than at least It Chapter 2. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's awesome. It's just a great movie.
Okay.
Especially for an indie movie. That's why I'm giving it like extra hype. I'm like, this is a budget film that's, you know, accomplished this. That's awesome.
Okay, so you gave it an 8. I gave it a 7 for experience. I think it's well above average. I don't think I could rope it into the 8 through 10 region, just because of like some of the downfalls that I feel like with the scary factor and some of the other things. But that in no way, shape, or form means that I dislike the movie. I like the movie, and I'm definitely planning to buy it. I'm definitely going to watch it again. It's just, I cannot justify going higher than 7.
If you have a buddy who might be terrified of clowns, if you show them this, they probably won't sleep again. Like, I'm talking like scared of clowns. The body horror in this movie, and just, man, like I said, if I saw this as a kid,
game over. Okay, this is a perfect statement to why I'm giving it a 7. This is the perfect movie to where if I don't know what to watch and I just want to like chill out and like eat some popcorn and like watch a movie and have like a movie night.
yeah, it's a good popcorn
It's
horror.
a good popcorn horror movie to
Just
sit
a
and watch.
quick little, like,
If you can stomach it through the body horror.
oh yeah, because it's rough. It's rough. The body horror effects, once again, I cannot express how good they are.
There are some movies that the practical effects in body horror don't look as good, but they didn't make you cringe like this. These make me cringe. But there are some like practical effects in some classic horror movies like Hellraiser that they don't faze me at all.
Yeah.
But they're more gruesome than this.
Yeah, that don't mean they don't look amazing.
Oh yeah, it's just they don't give
With
that.
this
like,
one, it had like this, like,
the tensing factor.
yeah, I was like, oh no.
So I gave it a 7. You gave it an 8, which gives us an average of 7.5 for experience.
Great movie.
Yeah, a net positive experience other than humor, which I don't think is a bad thing in this case. So, pretty good overall. Now, with the scoring complete, it's time to play our Rotten Tomato game, where we try to guess the critic and the audience score of this movie. I suck at these. I have only ever got one right. I've never got a queen sweep in this. So, this came out in 2014, so I'm gonna let you go first.
The way this movie's paced, I don't think critics would have liked that. I don't think, especially being an indie movie, it's kind of just, I would imagine if I was like a stern critic, I probably wouldn't like it that much. Like, you know, not me, you know, but I'm just saying if I was in a critic's shoes, knowing how they work around things, especially slashers, I'd say maybe like a 43 from critics, and maybe like, as much as I liked it, I'd say like a 52 from audience.
Okay. I'm going to give it a 62 for critics, and I'm going to give it a 75 for audience.
The reason being, once again, I feel like a lot of people might be turned off that it looks kind of low budget,
Yeah.
but
Well, see, what I'm betting on is that fewer people have put reviews out on it.
okay.
So, just a refresher, my guesses were 62% for critic score, 74% for audience score. His were 43 for critics and 52 for audience. So, DMAC, tell us the scores.
All right, the critic score for Clown is 48%,
Okay.
Okay, I was pretty close.
and the audience score for Clown is 38%.
38?
Wow.
38%.
Well, damn, you were closer on both again.
I'll win again.
All I love for this movie.
That's so unfortunate. I feel like, I don't know. I don't know why people would rate it so low. Like, I even guesstimated that people would rate it low, but that low? It's like,
They rated. Okay, remember what I said before we started doing this channel? Audiences was higher, critics was always lower. They have switched it up on us, and I don't know when this was made a thing, but it's getting on my nerves.
I've watched critic scores almost my whole life, and I just get like gut hunches. I'm like, I feel like I know what this will get, but it's like, I don't see why people could think this movie's that bad. If you like watch it and pay attention to it, like just the body horror alone
For
is
what
like,
it is pretty impressive. It is
yeah,
a really
it's
good
like,
movie.
Okay, well, just putting on my like super critical thinking hat on for just a minute. It is a really fast-paced movie.
it's, I guess you could say rushed. Yeah,
I guess I could see somebody making that argument.
it's budget.
It's budget, and also
It's also, I think,
Some of the
I
dialogue
think
is bad.
It's worth noting. I did look at the budget. It's 1.5 million. So
Oh.
Which in movie terms,
is not a lot.
Is- isn't
not a
that
lot. It's
much.
not a lot. It's higher than what I thought, but
I
yeah.
think that might be higher than Butterfly Kisses.
probably,
I think
because
so.
when you do found footage, that instantly.
Yeah, I know it's like comparing very different things. But,
Yeah.
Also, I could imagine that this just not being certain horror goers like cup of tea.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Like I said, it's like, and plus nobody's really ever heard of this movie.
Okay, remember this came out in 2014. This was like heyday Conjuring, heyday Paranormal Activity, like all that was booming.
I don't even
Slashers
know-
was not on the up and up.
I don't
at that
even
time.
know if this was a theatrical movie. I feel like it might have just been straight to DVD.
Well, even if it was straight to DVD, that just hurt it worse, I think. But
Because I remember like digging to find this trailer. Like I just saw it and I was like, "Oh man, that looks gnarly." But I don't know if it was in theaters or not. Maybe you can find out.
regardless of the critics and audience score,
We liked it.
Yeah, we liked it. We disagree. So, if you've come to this channel for our opinion, I suggest giving it a watch. If you don't like it, let us know. We would
Yeah.
love to hear your reasons why you don't
Horror
like it.
is the most subjective genre there is, so you can literally. Some people hate movies. We have very controversial opinions,
And we're
on
going to
movies.
get to them. My favorite horror movie of all time is universally hated. But I do not think it's the best horror movie of all time, if that makes sense. I think that is an important distinction. As a
Yeah.
horror fan, you have one that is the best horror movie ever made versus your favorite horror movie.
Yeah,
So
it's-
my horror movie that I love the most, hated by a lot of people.
And just like it's subjective. Like I said, if you want to see a clown being scary and
In a
getting some
unique
kills,
way.
in a cool demon, yeah, this movie rocks. I'd definitely recommend it.
go check it out. It's on Freevee. I believe that's where we watched it.
If you can't find it, like if you're watching this in the future or something, you could probably find it on eBay for like $2 or something.
Or you could probably get it on Apple like for what, $10, maybe less. At the most $15, which I think it would be worth $15 to watch.
Definitely. I love it.
I think that's probably overestimating how much you would pay for it. But all right, well, that's been our review, everybody. So we got a couple things to go over before we do our send off. So I apologize that it's been a little longer than normal. So I'm gonna hand it over to Zombie Cat for some little sad news.
Yeah. So we didn't post it in our last video or the one, I don't remember how long it's been now, but Shelley Duvall passed away, which is heartbreaking. She is a part of my favorite horror movie of all time, which I'm sure you can all guess which that is by now after that. But she passed away along with what was his name in this movie? Carlston in this movie is a part of one of my favorite horror games, Until Dawn, which started a spin-off started a spin-off series called The Dark Pictures. Cool games if you've never played them. And the curator in that game, Tony Pankhurst, who does the same thing that the dude who plays Carlston in this movie does for those games, he passed away in his 60s, so super sad. So two horrors.
Yeah. So we have to give them some acknowledgement. So they will be dearly missed by us, and I'm sure by plenty of other horror fans.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, not everything is all doom and gloom here at the Horror Den, not all the time at least. So, just some quick things. If you liked what we do here, and if you enjoyed this video, please just give us a like, a comment, or a subscription. They really help. They really help other people see our videos and helps us with the algorithm and gets us seen, which us being a small channel is huge right now. If you also want to see what we're up to in real life, doing our real world shenanigans, we have an Instagram over at the Horror Den channel on there. We also have a Patreon.
Yes, you can subscribe to our Patreon for as low as $5 a month. All the proceeds go right back into the channel. We're currently using a brand new tripod that was used from Patreon, so awesome. Thank you. So if you would like to support, you can have your name put up like this right here. Thank you once again. And so yeah, you can support as little as $5 a month. It helps tremendously as we all work full-time jobs and don't have much time to do this. We have to squeeze it in on our lucky days off.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to us today, and we hope you enjoyed it. Just remember to do all that jazz that everybody asks you to do on YouTube, and hope you're, having a good life out there. But more importantly, stay spooky out there.